The Discourses of Christ of the Last Days. The most fundamental practice of being an honest person. When you first start building a foundation in your faith, you should firmly set foot on the path of pursuing the truth. You should be on the starting line for entering into the truth reality, not the starting line of reciting words and doctrines. You should be focused on entering into the truth reality, seeking and practicing the truth in all things, being able to put the truth into practice in all things, and use it as a comparison for everything. You should ponder how to practice the truth, what the principles of practice are, and what sort of practice of the truth will meet God's requirements and satisfy God. However, people are too lacking in stature. They are always asking about things that are unrelated to practicing the truth, that are unrelated to self-knowledge or being an honest person. Isn't that pathetic? Doesn't that show small stature? Some people accepted this step of God's work as soon as He began it, and have been believers right up to the present day. But they still don't understand what the truth reality is, or what practicing the truth is. Some say, "I've given up my family and career for my faith and been through quite a bit. How could you say I don't have any truth reality? I've left my family behind. Is that not reality? I've given up my marriage. Is that not reality? Isn't all of that an expression of putting the truth into practice? On the outside, you have given up the secular world and given up your family to believe in God. But does that mean you have entered into the truth reality? Does it mean you are an honest person, one who submits to God? Does it mean that your disposition has changed, or that you are someone who possesses the truth or humanity? It certainly does not. These outward actions of yours may seem nice to other people, but they don't mean that you are practicing the truth or submitting to God, and they certainly don't mean that you are entering into the truth reality. People's sacrifices and expenditures are too adulterated, and people are all controlled by the intent to receive blessings, and they have not been purified through trials and refinement. That's why so many are still perfunctory in their duties and don't get any practical results. They even disrupt, disturb, undermine, and cause all sorts of trouble to the church's work. They give no thought to repentance and keep spreading negativity, telling lies, and twisting the facts to argue their own case, even as the church clears them out. Some people believe for a decade or two, but still run amok and do all sorts of evil. They are then cleared out or expelled by the church. The fact that they can do so many terrible things is adequate proof that they have terrible character, that they are too crooked and deceitful, and they are not at all guileless, obedient, or submissive. This is because they have never cared much for practicing the truth and being an honest person. They see faith in God as a matter of, as long as I give up my family, expend myself for God, suffer and pay a price, God should commemorate my deeds, and I should receive His salvation. This is just whimsy and wishful thinking. If you want to receive salvation and truly come before God, first you must come to God in seeking. O God, What should I put into practice? What is your standard for saving people? What type of people do you save? This is what we should seek and know above all. Establish your foundation upon the truth. Put effort into the truth and into reality in everything. And then you will be a person who possesses a foundation, who possesses life. If you establish your foundation upon words and doctrines, never putting any truth into practice or putting effort into any truth, then you will be someone who never possesses life. When we practice being an honest person, we have the life, reality, and essence of an honest person. We then have the practice and the behavior of an honest person, and at the least, that honest side of us will bring God joy, and He will approve of it. However, we still often display lies, trickery, and deceitfulness, which need to be cleansed. That's why we need to continue seeking and not get stuck in a rut. God is waiting for us, giving us a chance. If you never make plans to become an honest person, if you never seek how to speak honestly and from the heart, how to do things without the adulteration of artifice or deception, how to behave like an honest person, then there's no way you will live with an honest human likeness or enter into the truth reality of being an honest person. If you have entered into the reality of a certain aspect of the truth, then you have gained that aspect of the truth. If you do not possess that reality, then you don't possess that life or stature. In the face of trials and temptation, or when you receive a commission, if you don't have any reality at all, you will easily stumble and make mistakes. You will be prone to offending and rebelling against God. You won't be able to help yourself. Many people run amok in their duties, refusing to take advice and remaining incorrigible, seriously disrupting and disturbing the church's work, and seriously harming the interests of God's house. These people are cleared out or expelled in the end. This is the inevitable outcome. But if you are currently practicing the truth to be an honest person, your experiential testimony as an honest person is approved by God. No one can take that away from you, and no one can strip you of this reality, of this life. Some people ask, I've already been an honest person for a long time. Can I turn back into a deceitful person? If you have cast off your corrupt disposition, if you possess the truth reality of being an honest person, if you're living out a human likeness and detest artifice, deceitfulness, and the world of non-believers in your heart, then you cannot return to being under Satan's power. This is because you are able to live according to God's words. You are already living in the light. Changing from a deceitful person into an honest one is not easy. Turning back into a deceitful person from being an honest person that God truly delights in would be impossible, even more difficult. Some people say, I have several years of experience of being an honest person. I tell the truth most of the time and I'm fairly honest. But here and there I say something that is untrue, indirect, or deceitful. This is a much easier problem to fix. As long as you focus on seeking the truth and striving for the truth, there's no need to worry about being unable to change in the future. You'll certainly continue to improve. Just like a seedling planted in the earth, If you water it on time and give it daily sunlight, you don't need to worry about whether it will bear fruit later on, and there will certainly be a harvest in the fall. What you should be most concerned about now is this: have you had any entry into being an honest person? Are you telling fewer and fewer lies? Can you say that you are, on the whole, an honest person now? These are the key questions. If someone says, "I know that I'm a deceitful person, but I've never practiced being honest," then you don't have any of the reality of being an honest person. You need to work hard to take out for dissection every little facet of your life, all your various behaviors, all the ways you practice deceitfulness in your treatment of others. Before you dissect these things, you may feel very pleased with yourself, very self-satisfied for having done what you've done. But once you dissect them in comparison with God's words, you will be shocked. I didn't realize I'm so vile, so malicious and insidious. You will discover your true self and truly recognize your difficulties, your flaws, and your deceitfulness. If you don't do any dissection and forever think of yourself as an honest person, someone free of deceit, yet you still call yourself a deceitful person, then you will never change. If you don't dig up those despicable, wicked intents in your heart, then how will you see your ugliness and corruption? If you don't reflect on and dissect your corrupt states, will you see the truth of how deeply corrupted you are? Without any understanding of your corrupt disposition, you won't know how to seek the truth to resolve problems. You won't know how to pursue the truth and enter into reality according to God's requirements. That's the true meaning behind the phrase, "You will never have reality if you don't practice the truth." Everything that God says is the truth. Every last word has the truth reality, and it is all the reality of positive things. People just need to bring God's words into their daily lives to practice and enter into. Every word from God is aimed at what mankind needs, and every word is for people to compare themselves against. They are not meant to be glanced over in passing, nor are they meant to satisfy some spiritual needs of yours, nor for you to pay lip service to, or to meet your needs to talk about words and doctrines. Each word of God possesses the reality of the truth. If you don't put God's words into practice, you will have no way of entering into the truth reality. You will always be someone who has no connection to reality. If you practice being an honest person, then you will have the reality of being honest, and you will be able to live out a true state of being an honest person, rather than just putting up false pretenses. You'll also be able to understand what sort of person is honest and what sort of person isn't, and why God detests deceitful people. You'll truly understand the significance of being an honest person. You will experience what God feels about when He requires people to be honest, and why He requires that of people. When you find that you are full of deceitfulness, you'll hate your deceitfulness and crookedness. You will hate how shamelessly you lived by your deceitful, crooked disposition. You will thus be eager to change. This way, you will feel more and more that being an honest person is the only way to live out a normal humanity and to live with meaning. you will feel that God requiring people to be honest is incredibly meaningful. You will feel that only by doing this can you accord with God's intentions, that only honest people will gain salvation, and that what God said is entirely accurate. You tell me, is God's requirement for people to be honest meaningful?
Yes, it is.
Then, starting from now, you should dissect the deceitful and crooked parts of yourselves. Once you've dissected them, you will discover that behind everything deceitful there is an intent, a certain goal, and a human ugliness. You'll discover that this deceit reveals people's foolishness, selfishness, and despicableness. When you discover that, you will see your true face, and when you see your true face, you will hate yourself. When you start to hate yourself, when you really know what sort of thing you are, will you keep flaunting yourself then? Will you keep boasting at every turn? Will you always be wanting compliments and praise from others? Will you still say that God's demands are too high, that there is no need? You won't act that way, and you won't say such things. You will agree with what God says and give an amen. You will be convinced with your heart and mind and with your eyes. When this happens, it means that you have begun practicing God's words. You've entered into reality, and you've started to see results. The more you put God's words into practice, the more you will feel how accurate and how necessary they are. Let's say you don't put them into practice. Instead, you always just blather on. Oh, I'm dishonest. I'm deceitful. And yet, when faced with a situation, you still act deceitfully, all the while thinking that this doesn't count as deceitfulness, considering yourself as still honest, and just letting the affair pass like that. And the next time something comes up, you again resort to tricks and engage in crookedness and deceitfulness, lying as soon as you open your mouth. Afterward, you wonder, was I crooked and deceitful again? Was I lying again? I don't think that counts. And you pray before God. God, you see how I always resort to schemes, and I'm always crooked and deceitful. Please forgive me. I won't be that way next time. If I am, please discipline me. Just touching upon these matters lightly, glossing over them. What kind of person is this? This is someone who doesn't love the truth and isn't willing to put it into practice. You may have paid a bit of a price or spent some time performing your duty, serving God or listening to sermons. You may also have sacrificed some working hours and made a bit less money. But in fact, you haven't remotely put the truth into practice, and you haven't taken the matter of practicing the truth seriously. You have been superficial and perfunctory, never thinking much of it. If you only go through the motions when practicing the truth, that proves your attitude toward the truth isn't one of love. You are someone who isn't willing to put the truth into practice. You are distant from and averse to the truth. Your faith is undertaken in order to gain blessings, and the only reason you haven't walked away from God is because you're afraid of being punished. So you muddle through in your faith, seeking to preach the words and doctrines to make yourself look good, learning some spiritual vocabulary and some popular hymns, learning some catchphrases for fellowshipping on the truth and buzzwords related to your faith. You adorn yourself like a spiritual person, thinking that you're someone who accords with God's intentions and is worthy of being used by Him. You become complacent and forget yourself. You get taken in and fooled by this surface-level image. These hypocritical behaviors. You are fooled by these until you die. And though you think that you will ascend into heaven, in fact, you will descend into hell. What meaning is there in that kind of faith? There is nothing real in this so-called faith of yours. At most, you have acknowledged that there is a God, but you have not entered any bit of the truth reality. So, in the end, your outcome will be the same as non-believers. You'll go to hell with no good end results. God said, "What I ask for is not bright, lush flowers, but bounteous fruit." No matter how many flowers you have or how pretty they are, God doesn't want them. Which is to say that no matter how nicely you speak or how much you appear to expend, contribute, or sacrifice, this is not what God takes joy in. God only looks at how much truth you have actually understood and put into practice. How much of the truth reality in God's words you have lived out. Whether there has been true change in your life disposition. How much genuine experiential testimony you have. How many good deeds you have prepared. How much you have done to satisfy God's intentions, and whether you've performed your duty up to standard. These are the things that God looks at. When people don't understand God and don't know His intentions, they always misinterpret them and present Him with some superficial things as a way to settle accounts with Him. They say, "God, I've been a believer for many years. I've traveled all over the place, preached the gospel and converted so many people. I can recite several passages of your words and sing quite a few hymns. When something big or something difficult comes up, I always fast and pray, and I read your words all the time. How could I not be in accordance with your intentions?" Then God says to them, "Are you an honest person now? Has your deceitfulness changed? Have you ever paid any price to become an honest person? Have you ever brought before me all the deceitful things you've done, all revelations of your deceitfulness, and brought them to light? Are you being less dishonest with me? Do you recognize when you make false oaths or empty promises to me, or say nice things to fool me? Have you let go of these things?" When you think on that and find you haven't let go of these things at all, you will be left dumbfounded. You will be alerted to the fact that you have no way to settle accounts before God. I expose your corrupt state to allow you to know yourselves. I talk this much so that you can put the truth into practice and enter into reality. No words, no fellowship or truths are for people to recite far and wide. They are to be put into practice. Why are you always being told to accept the truth and put it into practice? It is because only the truth can cleanse your corruption and change your outlook on life and your values, and only the truth can become someone's life. When you accept the truth, you must also put it into practice for it to become your life. If you believe that you understand the truth but haven't practiced it, and it hasn't become your life, then you cannot possibly change. Since you haven't accepted the truth, there's no way for your corrupt disposition to be cleansed. If you cannot practice the truth, you will not change. Finally, if the truth has not taken root in your heart, and it has not become your life, then when your time as a believer is coming to a close, your fate and outcome will be decided. In light of this fellowship, are all of you feeling some urgency to put the truth into practice? Don't wait for 3 years, 5 years, or beyond, and only then start to practice it. There's no such thing as being too early or too late when it comes to practicing the truth. If you practice it soon, you will change soon. And if you practice it later, you will change later. If you miss your chance at the Holy Spirit's work and God's perfection of mankind, you will be in danger when the great disasters come. Then, when God's work to save mankind concludes, there won't be any chances left at all. If, after you've lost your chance, you say, "I didn't put any effort in then, but I'll start to practice this now," it will be too late, and it'll be unlikely that you will be perfected by God. That's because the Holy Spirit won't be working anymore, and your understanding of all things, of all truths, will be very shallow. There are all sorts of situations arising now, and through fellowshipping on the truth, your faith is growing and you have more drive to follow God. If there weren't any situations for a while, you would certainly become negative and undisciplined, drifting further and further from God. You would become just like those in the religious world, just observing the formats of gatherings and religious ceremonies, utterly without the truth reality. Then, what good would it do you to beat your chest and wail? Tell me, is it exhausting to live alongside deceitful people?
It is.
Are they not exhausted too? In fact, they are also tired, but they do not feel their tiredness. This is because deceitful people and honest people are different. Honest people are simpler. Their thoughts are not so complicated, and they say what they think. Deceitful people, on the other hand, always have to speak in a roundabout way. They say nothing directly. Instead, they are always playing deceitful games and covering up their lies. They are always exercising their minds, always thinking, afraid that if they are at all negligent, they will let something slip. To what extent do some people play deceitful games? No matter who they are interacting with, they are always trying to see who is more calculating, who is smarter, who is on top, and ultimately their competitiveness becomes neurosis. They cannot sleep at night, yet they do not feel pain, and even think this is normal. Have they not then become living demons? When God saves people, He allows them to break away from Satan's influence and cast off their corrupt dispositions, to become honest people and live by His words. To live as an honest person is freeing and liberating, and much less painful. It is the happiest of lives. Honest people are simpler. They say what is in their hearts, and they say what they are thinking. In their words and actions, they follow their conscience and reason. They are willing to strive for the truth, and when they understand it, they put it into practice. When they cannot see through a matter, they are willing to seek the truth, and then they do whatever accords with it. They seek God's desires everywhere and in everything, and then follow them in their actions. There may be a few areas in which they are foolish and must equip themselves with the truth principles, and this requires them to constantly grow. Experiencing in this way means that they can become honest, wise people and accord entirely with God's intentions. But deceitful people are not like this. They live by satanic dispositions, revealing their corruption, yet fearing that others may find something to use against them in their doing so. So, they use crooked and deceitful tricks in response. They are afraid of a time when everything will be revealed, so they use every means they can to fabricate lies and cover them up. And when a gap appears, they tell more lies to fill it. Always lying and covering up their lies, is that not an exhausting way to live? They are always racking their brains to think up lies and cover up for them. It is just too taxing. That is why deceitful people who spend their days devising lies and covering them up have such exhausting and painful lives. It is different, however, with honest people. As an honest person, one does not have so much to consider when one speaks and acts. In most cases, an honest person can just speak truthfully. It is only when a specific matter touches on their interests that they work their minds a bit harder. They may lie a little to protect their interests, to maintain their vanity and pride. These kinds of lies are limited, so speaking and acting are not so exhausting for honest people. The intents of deceitful people are much more complicated than those of honest people. Their considerations are too multifaceted. They must consider their prestige, their reputation, profit, and status. And they must protect their interests. All this without letting others see any flaws or giving the game away. So they must rack their brains to come up with lies. Moreover, deceitful people have great excessive desires and many demands. They have to devise ways to achieve their goals, so they must continue to lie and cheat. And as they tell more lies, they need to cover up more lies. That is why the life of a deceitful person is so much more exhausting and painful than that of an honest person. Some people are relatively honest. If they can pursue the truth, reflect on themselves regardless of what lies they have told, recognize the trickery they have engaged in, whatever it was, viewing it in light of God's words to dissect it and understand it, and going on to change it, then they will be able to rid themselves of much of their lying and trickery in no more than a few years. They will then have become a person who is basically honest. Living like this not only makes them free from much pain and exhaustion, it also brings them peace and happiness. In many matters, they will be free of the constraints of fame, gain, status, of vanity and pride, and will naturally live a free and liberated life. Deceitful people, however, always have ulterior motives behind their speech and actions. They fabricate all manner of lies to mislead and trick others, and as soon as they are exposed, they think of ways to cover up their lies. Tormented in this way and that, they, too, feel that their lives are exhausting. It is exhausting enough for them to tell so many lies in every situation that they encounter. and having to then cover up those lies is even more exhausting. Everything they say is intended to accomplish a goal, so they expend a lot of mental energy on every word they speak. And when they have finished talking, they fear you have seen through them, so they must also rack their brains to hide their lies, doggedly explaining things to you, trying to convince you that they are not lying or deceiving you, that they are a good person. Deceitful people are apt to do these things. If two deceitful people are together, there is bound to be intrigue, conflict, and scheming. The wrangling will never end, resulting in a deeper and deeper hatred, and they will become arch enemies. If you are an honest person with a deceitful person, these behaviors will certainly sicken you. If they just act that way here and there, you'll say that everyone has a corrupt disposition and that such things are hard to avoid. But if they act that way all the time, you'll be particularly disgusted by these methods and loathe them. You'll loathe that side of them and the intentions they have. When you feel loathing to such an extent, you will be able to hate and reject them. This is a very normal thing. They cannot be interacted with unless they repent and show some change. What do you say? Isn't life exhausting for deceitful people? They spend all their time telling lies, then telling more lies to cover them up, and engaging in trickery. They bring this exhaustion upon themselves. They know that living like this is exhausting. So why would they still want to be deceitful and not wish to be honest? Have you ever thought about this question? This is a consequence of people being fooled by their satanic natures. It stops them from ridding themselves of this kind of life, this kind of disposition. People are willing to accept being fooled like this and to live in this. They do not want to practice the truth and walk the path of light. You think that living like this is exhausting and that acting this way is unnecessary. But deceitful people think it absolutely necessary. They think that to not do so would cause them humiliation, that it would harm their image, their reputation, and their interests too, and that they would lose too much. They treasure these things. They treasure their own image, their own reputation and status. This is the true face of people who do not love the truth. In short, when people are unwilling to be honest or practice the truth, it is because they do not love the truth. In their hearts, they treasure things like reputation and status. They like to follow worldly trends and live under the power of Satan. This is a problem of their nature. There are people now who have believed in God for years, who have heard many sermons and know what believing in God is all about. But they still do not practice the truth and have not changed one bit. Why is this? It's because they do not love the truth. Even if they do understand a little of the truth, they are still not able to practice it. For such people, no matter how many years they believe in God, it will be for naught. Can people who do not love the truth be saved? It is absolutely impossible. Not loving the truth is a problem with one's heart, with one's nature. It cannot be resolved. Whether or not one can be saved in their faith mainly depends on whether or not they love the truth. Only those who love the truth can accept the truth. Only they can undergo hardship and pay a price for the sake of the truth. And only they can pray to God and rely on Him. Only they can seek the truth and reflect and know themselves through their experiences, have the courage to rebel against the flesh, and achieve the practice of the truth and submission to God. Only those who love the truth can pursue it in this way, walk the path of salvation, and gain God's approval. There is no path other than this one. It is very hard for those who do not love the truth to accept it. This is because, by their natures, they are averse to the truth and hate it. If they wanted to stop resisting God or to not do evil, it would be very difficult for them to do so, because they are of Satan, and they have already become devils and enemies of God. God saves mankind. He does not save devils or Satan. Some people ask questions like, I really do understand the truth. I just can't put it into practice. What should I do? This is someone who does not love the truth. If someone does not love the truth, then they cannot put it into practice even if they understand it, because at heart, they are unwilling to do so and they do not like the truth. Such a person is beyond salvation. Some people say, it seems to me that you lose out on a lot by being an honest person, so I don't want to be one. Deceitful people never lose out. They even profit from taking advantage of others. So, I would rather be a deceitful person. I'm not willing to let others know my private business, to let them grasp me or understand me. My fate should be in my own hands. By all means then, try that and see. See what sort of outcome you wind up with. See who goes to hell and who gets punished in the end. Are you willing to be honest? What do you plan to do after hearing this fellowship? What will you start with first?
I'll start by not lying.
This is the right way to practice, but not lying isn't easy. There are often intents behind people's lies, but some lies don't have any intent behind them, nor are they deliberately planned. Instead, they just come out naturally. Such lies are easy to resolve. It is lies with intents behind them that are difficult to resolve. This is because these intents come from one's nature and represent Satan's trickery, and they are intents that people intentionally choose. If someone does not love the truth, they will be unable to rebel against the flesh, so they should pray to God and rely on Him, and seek the truth to resolve the issue. But lying cannot completely be resolved all at once. There will be the occasional relapse, even multiple relapses. This is a normal situation, and as long as you resolve each and every lie you tell, and keep up with this, then the day will come when you will have resolved them all. The resolution of lying is a protracted war. When one lie pours out, reflect on yourself, and then pray to God. When another one comes out, reflect on yourself and pray to God again. The more you pray to God, the more you will hate your corrupt disposition, and the more you will long to practice the truth and live it out. Thus, you will have the strength to abandon lies. After a time of such experience and practice, you will be able to see that your lies have grown much fewer, that you are living with much greater ease, and that you need not lie or cover up your lies anymore. Though you may not speak much day to day, Every sentence will come from the heart and be true, with very few lies. How will it feel to live like that? Will it not be freeing and liberating? Your corrupt disposition will not constrain you, and you will not be bound by it, and you will at least begin to see the results of being an honest person. Of course, when you come across special circumstances, you may sometimes let a small lie slip. There may be times when you encounter danger or trouble of some sort, or want to maintain your safety, at which times lying cannot be helped. Still, you must reflect on it, understand it, and resolve the problem. You should pray to God and say, "There are still lies and trickery in me. May God save me from my corrupt disposition once and for all." When one is intentionally exercising wisdom, it does not count as a revelation of corruption. This is what one must experience to be an honest person. In this way, your lies will become ever fewer. Today, you tell 10 lies. Tomorrow, you might tell 9. The day after that, you'll say 8. Later, you'll only say 2 or 3. You'll tell the truth more and more, and your practice of being an honest person will come ever closer to God's intentions, His requirements, and His standards, and how good that will be. To practice being honest, you must have a path, and you must have an aim. First, resolve the problem of telling lies. You must know the essence behind your telling of these lies. You must also dissect what intents and motives drive you to speak these lies, why you are possessed of such intents, and what their essence is. When you have clarified all these issues, you will have thoroughly seen through the problem of lying, and when something befalls you, you will have principles of practice. If you carry on with such practice and experience, then you will surely see results. One day you'll say, "It's easy being honest. Being deceitful is so tiring. I don't want to be a deceitful person anymore. Always having to think about what lies to tell and how to cover up my lies. It's like being a person with a mental illness, speaking in contradictions. Someone who doesn't deserve to be called human. That sort of life is so tiring, and I don't want to live like that anymore." At this time, you'll have a hope of being truly honest, and it will prove that you have begun to make progress toward being an honest person. This is a breakthrough. Of course, there may be some of you who, when you begin to practice, will be mortified after speaking honest words and laying yourselves bare. Your face will go red, you will feel ashamed, and you will fear the laughter of others. What should you do then? Still, you must pray to God and ask that He give you strength. You say, "Oh God, I want to be an honest person, but I'm afraid that people will laugh at me when I speak the truth. I ask that you save me from the bondage of my satanic disposition. Let me live by your words and be freed and liberated." When you pray like this, there will be ever more brightness within your heart, and you will say to yourself, "It's good to put this into practice. Today, I've practiced the truth. Finally, I've been an honest person for once." As you pray like this, God will enlighten you. He will work in your heart, and He will move you, allowing you to appreciate how it feels to be an honest person. This is how the truth must be put into practice. At the very start, you will have no path, but through seeking the truth, you will find a path. When people begin seeking the truth, they don't necessarily have faith. Not having a path is hard for people, but once they understand the truth and have a path of practice, their hearts find enjoyment in it. If they are able to practice the truth and act according to principles, their hearts will find comfort, and they will gain freedom and liberation. If you have some true knowledge of God, you'll be able to see all things in this world clearly. Your heart will be illuminated, and you will have a path. Then you will gain complete liberation and freedom. At this time, you will understand what it means to put the truth into practice, to satisfy God, and to be a real person. And in this, you will be on the right track in your belief in God.